9 simple Japanese habits that will make your wealth skyrocket. Nobody taught Kenji how to be wealthy. He grew up in a 2-room apartment in Nagoya. His father worked at a factory. His mother cooked everything from scratch and kept a small notebook in the kitchen drawer. They never discussed money at the dinner table, not because it was a forbidden subject, but because it wasn't an emergency. It was simply managed, quietly, continuously, like breathing. By the time Kenji was 43, he owned his home outright. He had 3 years of living expenses and savings. He had never owned a credit card. And when his colleagues complained about financial pressure, which they did often in the break room over vending machine coffee, he would listen, nod, and say very little. He didn't have a secret. He just had habits. And habits, when they are practiced daily and invisibly, don't feel like discipline. They feel like personality. The modern world sells a very specific story about wealth, that it comes from the right investment, the right salary, the right moment of courage when you bet everything on something that pays off. This story is exciting. It is also, for the overwhelming majority of people, completely useless. Because the truth about wealth, the quiet, unsexy, deeply inconvenient truth, is that it is almost never built in a single dramatic moment. It is built in the space between moments, in the pause before a purchase, in the habit that runs on Tuesday morning before the rest of the day begins, in the way a person thinks about a $10 bill versus how they feel about a $1,000 one. The gap between people who accumulate wealth and people who don't is rarely income. It is almost always behavior. And behavior, at its deepest level, is culture. Which is why what happens inside ordinary Japanese households is worth paying very close attention to. The first habit is so simple, it sounds almost insulting. Pay yourself before you pay anyone else. In Japan, this practice is called sakidori, which translates literally as taking first. Before the month's spending begins, a fixed amount moves directly into savings, not whatever is left at the end, not a rough intention, a fixed, predetermined, non-negotiable portion, taken first, as though it were a bill. The psychological shift this creates is profound. When you save what's left after spending, spending always wins. There is always something that needs paying for, always a reason the number at the end is smaller than planned. But when savings leave before you begin, you adapt to what remains. Human beings are extraordinarily good at adapting to constraints. We expand to fill available space, and we also contract when we must, without the suffering we imagined it would cost. The Japanese household has known this for generations. Savings are not a reward for good behavior. They are the first obligation. The second habit lives in the kitchen. Walk into a traditional Japanese home before dinner, and you will often find the refrigerator less than half full. This is not poverty. It is philosophy. The Japanese practice of shokuin kanri, food management, is built on the principle of buying only what you will use, and using everything you buy. Leftovers are not an accident in Japanese cooking. They are part of the plan. Rice from dinner becomes the base of tomorrow's breakfast. Broth from one meal becomes the foundation of the next. Nothing is wasted because waste is understood viscerally as the destruction of something that took effort to create. Applied to money, this same thinking becomes radical. Every purchase is evaluated not just on its cost, but on its utilization. Will this be fully used? Will it be appreciated, worn, consumed, experienced completely? Or will it sit in a drawer, confirming that the desire for the thing was more pleasurable than the thing itself? This question, will I fully use this, is perhaps the single most powerful filter between financial accumulation and financial dissolution. The third habit is about appearance, specifically the deliberate refusal to perform wealth. Japan has a concept rarely discussed outside the country, haji, a deep cultural sensitivity to shame, to the judgment of others, to being seen as out of balance. And embedded within this is a particular social understanding that displaying wealth is considered, in many circles, a form of poor taste. The wealthy Japanese businessman who takes the subway, the executive who brings a bento from home, the family with significant savings who lives in a modest house in an ordinary neighborhood. These are not unusual figures. They are common, and they are common because Japanese culture never fully embraced the Western equation between visible wealth and social status. This matters financially in ways that are difficult to overstate. The single greatest driver of destructive spending in the modern world is not desire. It is the desire to be perceived in a certain way, to signal arrival, to communicate through objects a version of yourself you believe others will respect. When a culture quietly dismantles that equation, when the social reward for displaying wealth is removed, or even reversed, the financial behavior of its people changes entirely. You stop spending to be seen. You start spending only for what you actually need or genuinely love, and what's left quietly accumulates. The fourth habit is the practice of ichigo-ichi, a phrase from the world of tea ceremony that means, roughly, this moment only once. In its financial translation, it becomes a form of emotional braking. Before making any significant purchase, the Japanese practice of sitting with the desire, not acting immediately, but waiting, allows the emotional temperature of wanting to drop to its natural level. Desire is almost always loudest at the moment of exposure, the new product, the sale. The moment a friend shows you something beautiful that you didn't know you needed until you saw it. That moment of peak desire is precisely when marketers want you to act. Every limited time offer is a psychological weapon designed to make delay feel like loss. The counterintuitive truth is that most desire, if you simply wait, softens. Not because you become indifferent to the thing, but because you return to yourself. The version of you that exists outside of the moment of wanting is a different person, calmer, clearer, more honest about what you actually value. The Japanese household has built this pause into its culture, not as a rule, but as a rhythm. Sleep on it. Come back tomorrow. If it still matters, it matters. If it doesn't, you just saved money you didn't realize you were about to spend. The fifth habit is about children, and it may be the most important one of all. In Japan, children are given an allowance called okosukai at a young age, but it comes with a structure. They are expected to manage it, to divide it, to decide on their own what to spend and what to keep. And when the money is gone, it is gone. There is no advance, no parental rescue, just the natural consequence of spending more than you had. This is not cruelty. It is one of the most generous things a parent can offer a child, the experience of financial consequence in a safe environment. The small, private heartbreak of a 10-year-old who spent his allowance on candy and now cannot buy the thing he actually wanted. That Lesson costs almost nothing and teaches almost everything. The financial habits of adults are overwhelmingly formed in childhood, not through lectures, not through textbooks, through felt experience, through the memory of what it meant to have, to spend, to save, and to choose. A child who learns to manage okosukai becomes an adult who manages a household with the same quiet competence. The scale changes. The instinct does not. The sixth habit is radical simplicity in the physical environment. Japan's relationship with objects is shaped by space, the physical smallness of most Japanese homes. Yes, but also by an aesthetic philosophy that understands clutter as a form of mental noise. The principle of owning less, of surrounding yourself only with what is useful or genuinely beautiful, is not just an interior design preference. It is a financial strategy in disguise. When your home contains less, you want less. The visual noise of objects, the half-used products, the impulse purchases, the things accumulated without intention, creates a psychological appetite for more. Clutter breeds consumption. Simplicity breeds satisfaction. The Japanese household that practices danshari, the art of letting go, is not just tidier, it is financially leaner. The person who regularly evaluates their possessions, who lets go of what no longer serves them, is also the person who thinks twice before adding something new. Every new thing must earn its place, and that standard applied consistently dramatically reduces the volume of money that leaks out through unconsidered accumulation. The seventh habit is the discipline of invisible money. In Japan, the practice of kakebo, which you may already know from the first chapter of this story, is not just about recording spending. It is about making the invisible visible. Money that moves through digital transactions, through subscriptions, through the frictionless tap of a card, has no psychological weight. It disappears without ceremony. Writing it down by hand returns weight to it. The act of recording a purchase, its amount, its category, its emotional motivation, closes the loop between action and awareness. It forces a conversation between the person who spent and the person who is now accounting for it. Over time, this practice does something remarkable. It makes you intimately familiar with your own patterns. You begin to see yourself clearly, not as you imagine yourself to be financially, but as you actually are. And that clarity, uncomfortable as it sometimes feels, is the beginning of real change. The eighth habit is the quiet practice of contentment, chisoku in Japanese, knowing when enough is enough. This is perhaps the most countercultural idea in this entire conversation, because the modern economy is built on the premise that enough is never quite enough, that the next purchase, the next upgrade, the next level will finally produce the satisfaction the previous one almost delivered. Japanese culture, shaped by Buddhism and by centuries of living within natural and physical constraints, developed a different understanding that the feeling of sufficiency, of genuinely having enough, is not something you arrive at by acquiring more. It is something you cultivate by learning to recognize what you already have. The person who has mastered chisoku is not a monk. They are not indifferent to pleasure or beauty or comfort. They simply have a calibrated internal sense of when more stops adding to a life and starts adding to the noise. That calibration, in financial terms, is worth more than any investment strategy ever written. The ninth habit is the simplest and the strangest. It is silence. The Japanese do not discuss money openly. Not at dinner tables, not in social gatherings, not in the casual, comparative way that has become ordinary in many Western cultures, where salary and debt and spending are worn like social information, communicated constantly, used to locate yourself relative to others. In Japan, money is private, and that privacy is not just cultural etiquette. It is financial protection, because the moment you begin measuring your wealth against someone else's visible life, you have handed control of your financial decisions to a stranger. You are now spending to keep pace, saving to impress, living inside a comparison that was never yours to make. The silence keeps you honest. It keeps you inside your own life, inside your own actual values, your own actual needs, your own actual idea of what enough looks like. And that, in the end, is what all 9 of these habits share. Not a technique, not a trick, not a shortcut to a number in an account. They are all, at their core, a form of attention, a quiet, daily, deeply personal practice of knowing where you are, what you have, what you value, and what kind of life, honestly, not performatively, you are trying to build. Kenji's mother kept a notebook in the kitchen drawer. She never called it a financial strategy. She called it paying attention. And her son, at 43, sleeping without dread in a house he owned completely, was living proof that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do with money is simply notice it.